Hello, welcome to the video where I'm going to show you how to basically create a little lino cut stamp. All right, so I am going to start off with talking about transferring a drawing. So whenever you want to make a stamp, you can technically draw directly onto the linoleum. And the linoleum is basically it's this rubber thing that we will carve, and this little piece of rubber um, is what we'll use to basically make a stamp. Now, you want to get a piece of paper that's roughly the size. You want it to be more exactly the size. This one was measured for this, as you can see. And then once you have your sizing right, then you're going to draw your design on your piece of paper. This is actually tracing paper. You can use tracing paper or you can use regular paper, it doesn't matter. So once you have drawn out your design, the next step, and a few notes about the design, if there are ever words on your design, if you want them to show up in the correct direction, you have to write them backwards. Um, if you don't know how to do that, if you're using tracing paper, what you can do is draw your whole design, flip it over, retrace the whole design, and then you'll see on the back of mine how I've just basically taken a dark soft leaded pencil, like a 4B pencil, and I've gone over the whole design with this pencil. So you could do that with words if you wanted to, but I have a fish here. So I started by drawing on the fish, and then I flipped it over and I filled the whole back with um, graphite, right? Now what I can do is I can take this design, attach it to my linoleum, and you have to be a little bit careful because anywhere where you push down on this, it's going to transfer. And then I can go through and using a different, either a pen or a colored pencil, go through and retrace your design. And I'm not going to redo this whole thing. I'm just going to show you really quickly what happens when you do this. And there you have it. You can see that it's transferring my drawing directly on here. I find with a pen, you get a little bit more precise, like a ballpoint pen. You get a little more precise of an image, but you can definitely use whichever one you want. Now, one disclaimer before I move on, some linoleum has a different top and bottom. So make sure that you're using the side that feels rubbery and soft, not the side that feels stiff when you're doing a carving. There's also different softnesses of linoleum. The linoleum that we're going to be using is very soft. So this is the one I did. You'll notice that I went through and I outlined everything that I was going to avoid carving with black. Right? So everything that I'm not going to carve is black. Some people like to do the opposite. They like to carve only the black, but I like it this way because I can still see throughout the whole thing um, what my image looks like. And I can also kind of play around with it and maneuver it a little bit. You could technically take some like a different marker and go over the whole surface with the marker, so that way you can see exactly what you're carving, but it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. Okay, so I have two different tools here. They're both V's. Some have more of like a rounded curve, but these ones have more of a point in the middle. I don't know really if you can see that. It's a little blurry. But what we're going to be doing with this is we're going to be using these to carve. Now, a few things to keep in mind. These are super duper sharp. This is kind of a stiff material, like skin, right? If it can cut through this, it can cut through your skin. So never cut like this because you will hurt yourself. Always cut with your hands behind the tool every time you cut. You're welcome to rotate the piece as much as you want, but do not do this. This is a quick recipe for disaster, and hopefully it doesn't land you with stitches in the hospital. So start off by just taking one of your tools and kind of feeling how it carves. Now, you don't want to carve too terribly deep, right? You don't need to carve too terribly deep. If I look at this, I have, I don't know if you can really see it on there, but it's not very deep, and it doesn't need to be, right? If there's a problem and I haven't carved deep enough, then what I'm going to do is just go back and carve those areas a little deeper. So I have like a lot of little scales on mine. So I'm definitely going to want to use the little tool for this. And remember, I'm avoiding carving the black areas. I want to carve only the white areas. So if you are doing it the same way as me, then that's what you'll want to watch out for, is trying to avoid carving any of those black areas. So you can see throughout this process, I'm moving this around a lot. My hand is behind the tool, and I am not carving too terribly deep. And I'm trying my best not to carve into the black areas. It can be a little bit tricky to avoid the black areas on some smaller areas, but if you're careful, you can usually avoid them pretty substantially. Now, when you get to larger areas, so I would keep going and carve out all of this white space, but when you get to larger areas, you can switch to a larger tool and you can carve out those larger areas. Now, when I said I want all of my white areas carved, I meant all of them. So everything around the fish, I am going to be carving as well. Now, I am going to cut the stamp so that it is relatively close to the edge of the fish, but for now, I am going to remove any of the linoleum right next to the fish. Now, another thing is you can create kind of cool shapes. So if I wanted to, if I carve out all of this, I could do like an oval shape around my fish. And then whenever I print it or stamp it, it won't just capture the fish, but any of these little grooves could be like watery looking. It might be kind of neat. So just keep that in mind, that you can use the space around it to create different textures and get different effects. Alrighty, so all these little white areas I'm going to carve out. In the next video, I will show you how to stamp it. All right, so have fun with yours, and thank you for watching.